Hello, students. Let us discuss the poem The Canonization by John Donne. John Donne is the father of metaphysical poetry. Metaphysical poetry is marked by conceits, subtlety of thought, and frequent use of paradox. There is also deliberate harshness or rigidity of expression. The term metaphysical poets was coined by Dr. Samuel Johnson. In Dr. Johnson's opinion, metaphysical poets were men of learning. They displayed their knowledge in their poems. They brought together heterogeneous ideas by violence. They looked for images and examples everywhere in nature, art, and in the new scientific innovations of that period. The common people found it very difficult to understand. Though there is some kind of an instruction in their poems, it was very difficult for the common people to understand. What we have here on the screen is often quoted. The observation of Dr. Johnson is most quoted while we write anything about metaphysical poetry. The words used by Dr. Johnson are the most heterogeneous ideas are yoked by violence together. So, this is what he felt about metaphysical poets. The metaphysical poets bring together opposites or what cannot be put together. That is what he means by heterogeneous, uncommon, or unnatural things are brought together to describe things. So, this is the opinion of Dr. Samuel Johnson. Let us now look at the basic features of metaphysical poetry. Metaphysical poems are intellectual in content. The poet expresses passionate feelings. The imagery used by metaphysical poets are learned, but they are startling. There is direct form of address and spoken voice with dramatic tone is used in this kind of poetry. When we look at John Donne, we find that he employs simple style and colloquial diction. What do we mean by colloquial? Conversational style. He uses learned imagery in his poems. John Donne blends passion and thought. He also uses conceit and hyperbole excessively. T.S. Eliot, a great critic, had the following opinion about John Donne. T.S. Eliot feels that a thought to Donne was an experience. It modified his sensibility. When a poet's mind is perfectly equipped for its work, it is constantly amalgamating experience. Let us now look at the summary of the poem. The poet talks to his friend. He is actually disturbed by the constant interference of his friend in his act of love. The poet asks the intruder, who is his friend, to keep quiet and not to disturb him. The poet gives several suggestions as to what his friend can do instead of complaining about his love and disturbing him. The options are as follows. The friend can chide the poet's palsy, gout, few grey hairs, and ruined fortune. He can also spend his time to acquire wealth, to gain knowledge of the arts, to find a career, to retain a post, or to enter a king's service or subsidiary lord. All these things his friend can do instead of complaining the poet talking about his love and disturbing him. In the second stanza, the poet gives reasons why he should be allowed to love. The reason he gives are his love is harmless, it has not injured, drowned, overflowed, frozen, or heated anything. Life goes on normally even while the poet and his beloved continue to love. Therefore, there is no reason why the lovers should be interrupted. The lover and his beloved appear strange to the world. People consider them as very strange beings. The poet is not worried about what others think or call them. The strangeness is the result of their love. They show unique and mysterious unity. They complement each other like eagle and dove. Eagle, we already know, is a symbol of masculinity, while dove is that of femininity. Uh, like the tapir and fly also. He gives other two examples and then finally phoenix. The experience of love is at once fulfillment, distraction, and renewal. Their uniquely mysterious and spiritual love has transformed them into saints, that is, it will canonize them. The poet feels that love is spiritual and it will finally give them the status of sainthood. That is why the title of the poem is Canonization. It is a process by which the dead ones are turned into saints or they become saints. Now let us look at the metaphysical aspects of this poem. The very first thing that we note in this poem is that it has an abrupt beginning. The poem begins all of a sudden. Opening lines illustrate the shock tactic to catch the reader's attention. As the poem begins, all of a sudden, the reader's attention becomes arrested. We become interested in what the speaker is going to say. It is written in an argumentative and conversational style. There is step by step logical reasoning. We also find that the poet talks about different fields of knowledge, such as medicine, because he talks about the names of diseases, palsy and gout. Then he talks about trade and commerce, where he mentions about merchant ships being drowned. Then he talks about sainthood, which is the field of spirituality. He also talks about the innovations or the inventions that took place during his time, that is 17th century. He talks about spy, which is like a telescope. So he is talking about scientific invention. Like this, there is the display of scholarship in the poem Canonization. Regarding the usage of hyperbole, conceit, and paradox, we have the following examples. What merchant ships have my size drowned? This is a line from the poem where the use of hyperbole we can note. So, hyperbole is nothing but an exaggeration. Here, the poet exaggerates that the merchant ships are not drowned due to the tempest caused by his size. In the next paragraph, we notice an example about conceit. Conceit is a long drawn comparison between two incomparable things. The poet equates the lovers to the phoenix bird, which is a mysterious bird which dies and rises from its own ashes. So the poet is comparing lovers to the phoenix bird, which is a very disharmonious association. There is also use of paradox where he brings in totally opposite words in a sentence, like this one we have here. We can die by it, if not live by love. So these are some of the metaphysical features of this poem, The Canonization by John Donne. Thank you.